So yesterday, when the Browns were taking on the Eagles, Dylan Gabriel got the start. Poor Shedeur Sanders has that oblique injury.
There's entertainers and there's competitors, and my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
After Shedeur Sanders took the world by storm in the first preseason game of 2025 for the Cleveland Browns, the already complicated quarterback situation in Cleveland got even more complicated, especially considering the decision that the Cleveland Browns just made, naming Joe Flacco the official Week 1 starter of the Cleveland Browns, because Shedeur made it known that he deserved to be on the Browns' 53-man roster. So the only logical thing that could happen next was for Cleveland's fellow rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel to get his shot to show off his talents in a preseason game. And luckily for him, he had the entire first half to himself, after Kenny Pickett and Shedeur Sanders were both ruled out due to injury. However, his performance, along with some of the comments he made during the game, gave him a less than ideal impression on the NFL world. And don't worry, I waited as long as humanly possible to get the full context of the story, so I do know the reports that came out after the Dylan Gabriel interview. But real quick, guys, before we get to this content, we have been giving away multiple copies of Madden 26 on X and on Instagram. If you don't have a copy of Madden 26, you can check out this X post and my latest Instagram post, or subscribe and turn on your notifications here for a chance to win Madden 26. And on top of that, we have another huge announcement. NFL season's around the corner, and Dak Prescott just needs one passing yard in order for his square to hit. Guys, you can sign up with my promo code Mikerophone to get a free $50 in lineups when you play $5 or more on Prize Picks. Once you get that, use $25 on this lineup here to make $131. I've already been making picks so I can snipe the best lines early on. And in this case, I'm pairing Dak Prescott to get one passing yard, which is a free square, with Kyren Williams getting a touchdown at any point and Justin Jefferson scoring a touchdown versus the Chicago Bears. On top of that, if you want more plays, I've created an incredible Discord community of experts in the WAP link in the description down below. And thank you, Prize Picks, for today's sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We finally saw what Dylan Gabriel looked like in an NFL game this past week, and we were finally able to answer some questions that have been surrounding him in the Browns QB room since the NFL draft. Plus, he said something very questionable that leaves fans questioning what's really going on in the Browns quarterback room. But let's go over his on-field performance first. On paper, Dylan Gabriel had a very average performance, especially compared to Shedeur's last week. He completed 13 of his 18 pass attempts for 143 yards, 0 touchdowns, a pick 6, and a lost fumble. Now, a lot of people have still been giving Dylan Gabriel credit, considering he had a relatively high completion percentage and looked accurate when the ball left his hands. But there's one major problem with that. While Gabriel did look accurate, his decision making was absolutely terrible. Yet fans all over the internet are saying that the pick 6 that Gabriel threw wasn't even his fault. Even his head coach, Kevin Stefanski, doesn't think so. Listen to what he had to say when he was asked about there being backlash towards Gabriel for this play.
They're out of their sandbox. They were in the wrong area of their sandbox. We'll get that cleaned up. That's something that should never happen on that play.
Now, guys, I am all for head coaches supporting rookie quarterbacks and building up their confidence to the best of their ability. But if I'm remaining objective here, and I'm sure you guys could tell based off of how I've been covering this entire situation, anytime we get footage that proves me wrong, I'll be the first one to admit that I'm incorrect in these videos. And in this particular instance, this interception is 100% on Dylan Gabriel, and here's why. Let me show you an all 22 angle of this play to show you exactly where this play went wrong, and exactly why this pick was indeed Dylan Gabriel's fault. So this play starts at the Philadelphia 31-yard line with Gabriel under center in a single back 13 personnel formation with the 2 outside receivers playing closer to the line of scrimmage than they usually would. Now, this looks like a run play, and with the outside tight end on the strong side of the field motioning over to create a personnel mismatch on the weak side of the field, it seemed like that's what Cleveland was going to do. Instead, Cleveland runs a play action that was so effective that the entire front 7 ended up outside of the right hash marks and out of the ensuing play completely. This was an incredible decision by Kevin Stefanski, and it was executed well too. But after that split second where the handoff is being faked, things start to go completely wrong. If you pause the clip as soon as Dylan Gabriel starts to roll out, you start to notice a few things. The first thing you'll see is there's a wide open receiver in the middle of the field on a short crosser. And funny enough, the tight end that stayed over on the strong side ends up being wide open too after he completes completes his check and release. Both linebackers who were responsible for that area of the field were fooled by the play action and were about 5 steps behind either receiving option. The next thing you'll notice is that the motioning tight end who ends up coming back to the strong side after the ball is snapped is absolutely strapped, meaning that the only 2 realistic options for Gabriel to throw to are the 2 open wide receivers that we just went over, especially considering the strong side receiver runs a deep corner route as a decoy that takes the 2 safeties over top with him. The last thing you'll notice in this development is Dillon Gabriel's eyes. Gabriel is staring down Deontay Johnson on that crosser route as he makes his way out of the pocket, which, I mean, yeah, that's the right read, especially with Eagles rookie safety Andrew Mikuba giving his back to Deontay, preventing the deep route from hurting them. This should be an easy throw that will get you a first down and potentially even more. But look at what Dillon Gabriel does instead. Gabriel continues to let the play develop instead of taking the easy throw, and this creates a giant mess. This play works because the 3 receivers who are running to the strong side of the field are all at different levels, creating space in between defenders to throw the ball, especially when there's not even a defender in sight like there was. But when the ball gets held as long as it does, it creates a complete cluster near the sideline that takes all the space away from all the receivers involved. So Gabriel holds the ball way too long, giving Mikuba time to pick up Deontay Johnson and a Philly defensive end time to apply pressure on the play by trailing the fading tight end before rushing Gabriel once the play breaks down. On top of that, the other tight end, the one who was completely locked up from the get-go, decided that it would be a good idea to create some space from his man by creating contact and cutting up the field directly into the 2 routes behind him. Still, despite the 3 strong routes colliding with one another, and despite Mikuba making his way over to Deontay Johnson at damn near the hash marks, Gabriel kept his eyes on Johnson and Johnson only, attempting to feed him the ball with him being legitimately a foot away from another receiver, resulting in the route being jumped and crucial points going the other way. I mean, Mikuba could not have had it easier here. Gabriel literally never looked away from Deontay and still decided to throw him the ball after that disaster of a play. And the worst part is, the fading tight end did a fantastic job of creating some space after Gabriel screwed up the play by sitting in a zone. And he was directly in front of Gabriel. It's genuinely mind-blowing how badly Dillon Gabriel messed up such an easy play on multiple levels and gave the Philadelphia Eagles a touchdown in the process. Now, if this play looks familiar to you and you don't know why, you're not going crazy. This is almost the exact same play call that Shedeur Sanders threw his first touchdown on in Cleveland's first preseason game. It's literally the exact same formation, but the difference in Shedeur's play is that it happened on the Carolina 8-yard line, giving his offense even less space to work with than Dillon Gabriel's. Once the ball is snapped, you see the play action fake, the tight end on the right motion over, and Deontay Johnson on a crosser, just like we saw in the last play. The difference here, though, is Shedeur Sanders, instead of staring down one receiver the entire play and waiting so long to throw the ball that the entire play gets blown up, Shedeur finds an open spot in the backfield, sets his feet, then goes through his reads before getting the ball out quickly and finding Caden Davis in the back of the end zone, which was only possible because Shedeur was smart enough to get the ball out before all of his options made their way to the sideline and ran into each other. Not only did Shedeur Sanders completely outplay Dillon Gabriel in the same situation, but Shedeur's biggest highlight was the exact same play as Dillon Gabriel's biggest lowlight. It's clear that Shedeur is the better option for Cleveland between the two, and the whole world sees it, including Dillon Gabriel, I think, because during his start, after he was taken out for Tyler Huntley, Dillon Gabriel had this to say about his game.
There's entertainers and there's competitors, and my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
I mean, tell me that doesn't sound exactly like a shot at Shedeur. There's entertainers and there's competitors. To me, that sounds like he's saying that he's a competitor, while Shedeur is nothing but an entertainer. I mean, this isn't the first time we heard someone talking about Shedeur being more about social media than his actual grind. We all remember how Cam Ward was talking trash to him when they were working out together before the NFL draft.
I don't know why you practicing with a hat on. You don't play with no hat on. You wearing number 2, that's just getting your mind that you always want to be number 2, never number 1.
And to me in this case, it sounds like Dillon Gabriel is scared of Shedeur taking his job and his roster spot. And this is despite some crazy reports we're hearing from ESPN that the Cleveland Browns might hold on to 4 quarterbacks this season.
I expect the Cleveland Browns to carry 4 quarterbacks on their final 53-man roster.
And look, I'm not the only one who interpreted that quote like that either. The entire football world heard that quote and thought the exact same thing as I did. And it became so big in the NFL community that Dillon Gabriel had to clarify what he meant in a post-game presser.
All you in this room are entertainers, and you have a job to do.
Gabriel also went on to say this.
First off, I'm all about our team, you know what I mean, and each other. I would never make that, and I've said it before, that's why it's interesting. But for me, I've explained it. Entertainers are you all, competitor, that's what I am, and all my teammates, and we both have jobs to do.
I don't know about you guys, but personally, I'm not really buying this. Gabriel is in a direct quarterback competition with someone who the media and the coaches have classified as just an entertainer. So there's no way he didn't know what he was doing. Shedeur was a much more highly touted prospect than he was. He outplayed Dillon Gabriel at camp, and now he's outplaying him on the big stage. Gabriel is worried about his future, and he let a shot slide, whether he realized he was doing it or not. He had plenty of time in front of a microphone on national television, and if you're in that situation, you think you know better than to say something that could even be slightly considered a shot at Shedeur if he knows he doesn't mean it. The comment only gave the Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders club more fuel. Just look at Ian Hartz on X as an example. The guy has almost 200,000 followers, and he's tweeting stuff like this: take away the pick 6, lost fumble, and the 2 sacks taken, and it's hard not to be impressed by Dillon Gabriel today. So what you're saying is, if you take away everything bad, then Dillon Gabriel was impressive? I mean, come on, man. And guess what? The last 3 tweets this guy put out about Shedeur were jokes from when he fell in the draft in April. Certain people in the media and in the community in general have decided that they hate Shedeur Sanders just because of his father and his attitude in college, which could be considered fair because I myself was a critic of Shedeur Sanders and his father for tanking his draft stock all the way to the 5th round. But that isn't to say that this kid doesn't have talent, and it's my job to bring all of this information to your attention. So now the Browns officially released their depth chart, and it's absolutely wild. Joe Flacco's QB1, Kenny Pickett is listed as QB2 despite being injured for over 3 weeks. Dillon Gabriel sits at QB3 after that disastrous Eagles performance, and Shedeur Sanders, the guy who literally broke preseason viewership records with his 2-touchdown debut, is sitting at QB4, 4th string. The fan reaction has been absolutely nuclear. Social media exploded with people demanding that the Browns trade Shedeur Sanders to a real team and calling this decision weak. Even ESPN's First Take brought on Drewski specifically to roast Cleveland's decision making, and boy, did that backfire in a hurry.
And y'all can say all that stuff y'all saying about him, but what God got for the boy, can't stop it. That way he put that wrist up.
That's
you
right.
see him put that wrist up. After that, when he tapped that wrist, like, make sure that watch still there.
This depth chart might not even matter in about 6 weeks, and I'll tell you exactly why. Let's start with the elephant in the room, Kenny Pickett. The guy has been out since July 26th with what they called a mild hamstring injury. But here we are 3 weeks later, and he still can't participate in 11-on-11 drills. Browns legend Joe Thomas, who's been watching practice as a broadcaster, basically said that Kenny Pickett won't be ready for a couple more weeks. That puts his return right around week 3 of the regular season, which is perfect timing if you think about it. See, Pickett admitted that this is his first soft tissue injury, and he's being extra cautious because he knows what's at stake. He's playing on the final year of his rookie deal, $2.62 million fully guaranteed, and Cleveland already declined his 5th-year option. This is literally his last shot to prove he's not just another Pittsburgh draft bust. The timing of his return coincides perfectly with what I think will be a reality check for this Browns team. Look at their schedule. Week 1's at Cincinnati, Week 2's at Baltimore, Week 3 they're hosting Green Bay. That's 3 potential playoff teams right off the bat. If Joe Flacco struggles in those games, and let's be honest, he threw 15 interceptions in his last 11 starts, Kenny Pickett suddenly becomes the healthy veteran option right when he's ready to return. It's almost too convenient. The Browns don't just have a tough start, they have a brutal one. After those first 3 games, they face Detroit in week 4, then fly to London to play Minnesota in week 5, which is 5 playoff teams in the first 6 games. That's not a schedule designed for a 40-year-old quarterback who's already shown that he can't handle pressure. And here's the thing about Flacco that nobody wants to say out loud, he's basically playing his farewell tour. Multiple reports suggests that he plans to retire after this season, which means Cleveland is starting a lame duck quarterback while their actual future sits on the bench. That makes zero sense unless you understand what's really happening here. The Browns are terrified of losing games early and having the fan base completely revolt. They'd rather go 6-11 with Flacco than 4-13 with a rookie, because they think that somehow saves Kevin Stefanski's job. If they start 1-5 or 2-6, which seems likely given that schedule, the pressure to make a change becomes overwhelming. Now let's talk about the real story here. What happens with Shedeur Sanders? Despite being relegated to 4th string, Sanders has been nothing but professional, saying he's comfortable with being uncomfortable. But make no mistake, this situation is unsustainable. Sanders' preseason debut nearly broke NFL Network viewership records, and that wasn't just because of his name recognition. The kid completed 14 of 23 passes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns versus Carolina starters, showing poise and accuracy that Dillon Gabriel couldn't match against Philadelphia's backups. Even LeBron James and Jamie Foxx were posting about Sanders on social media after that performance.
I hear what all y'all saying. My name is Willie B, man. Hey, he the real deal. Now, how y'all feel now? That man playing for his daddy. That's straight from 51st and Hoover. Sanding, homie. Big time. Deion Sanders, we love you.
The more games Flacco loses, the louder that drumbeat becomes. Sanders' Rookie of the Year odds have already tanked to plus 2,500 because he's not expected to play, but that could change quickly. If Cleveland is sitting at 2-6 after that London game against Minnesota, the pressure to see what they have in their 5th round steal becomes enormous. As for Dillon Gabriel, honestly, his window might already be closed. That pick 6 against Philadelphia was such a bad decision that even Shannon Sharpe, who's recently become notorious for his brilliant decisions, decided to call him out. And the entertainers versus competitors comment just made everything worse. Gabriel tried to walk it back, claiming he meant the media were entertainers, but nobody's really buying it. Here's the brutal truth about Gabriel's situation. He has the worst completion percentage of any Browns quarterback in training camp at 54.9%, and he's already dealing with his own hamstring issues on top of everything else. At 5'11" and 205 pounds, he's also the smallest quarterback in the room, which doesn't help when you're already struggling with decision making. The most likely scenario for Gabriel is he becomes a mid-season trade candidate if the Browns are out of playoff contention. Teams like Carolina or New England might give up a late round pick to see if they can fix his issues, and Cleveland would probably take whatever they can get to free up a roster spot for someone who might actually contribute. Now let's zoom out and look at Cleveland's bigger picture, because this is where things get really confusing. The Browns have 2 first-round picks in 2026 thanks to the Travis Hunter trade that they made with Jacksonville, and they could realistically be picking in the top 5. ESPN's early 2026 mock drafts have them targeting quarterbacks like Cade Klubnik from Clemson or Lenoris Sellers from South Carolina. But here's what doesn't make sense. If you're planning to draft a quarterback next year anyway, why not see what you have in Shedeur Sanders right now? The kid fell to the 5th round specifically because teams thought that he might just be an entertainer, but his preseason performance suggested otherwise. Sanders set an NCAA record with a 49-game touchdown streak at Colorado, and he won the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. Those aren't just entertainer numbers. The real issue is Cleveland's cap situation. They are projected to be $36.4 million over the 2026 cap, and that's before making any moves, almost entirely because of Deshaun Watson's contract disaster. Watson is owed $92 million guaranteed through 2026, and he's currently on injured reserve with his 2nd Achilles surgery. That contract is without a doubt the worst trade since the new millennium, and it's completely handcuffing their ability to build around young talent. But let's be real about what's happening here. This is the 40th starting quarterback for the Browns since they returned in 1999. 40. At some point, you have to wonder if the problem isn't the quarterbacks, but the organization's approach to developing them. Look at successful rebuilds around the league. The Cardinals moved on from Josh Rosen after 1 season to draft Kyler Murray. The Commanders endured years of mediocrity before committing to Jaden Daniels. Even Cincinnati went from laughingstock to contender by fully investing in Joe Burrow. The difference? Those teams had the courage to commit to young quarterbacks rather than cycling through veterans. Cleveland's approach feels like they're trying to thread a needle that doesn't exist. They want to compete now with Myles Garrett, but they also know that they need a long-term solution at quarterback, so they end up with this weird hybrid approach where they start a 40-year-old while stashing potentially talented rookies on the bench. My prediction for how all this plays out, and I'm putting this on record so we can come back to it, is that Flacco starts the season and struggles against that brutal early schedule. By the time they're sitting at 1-5 or 2-6 after 6 weeks, the fan base is in full revolt and Kevin Stefanski is feeling the heat. That's when Kenny Pickett gets his shot, probably around week 7. Pickett will be fully healthy by then, and the narrative becomes, let's see if the change of scenery can help the former first-round pick. He'll get 3 to 4 games to prove himself, but here's the thing, Pickett's career numbers are genuinely terrible. 15 touchdowns against 14 interceptions in 30 games doesn't inspire confidence. When Pickett inevitably struggles too, that's when the Shedeur Sanders revolution begins. It probably happens right after the bye week in week 10, when Cleveland is mathematically eliminated from playoff contention and the focus shifts to 2026. Sanders gets the final 7 or 8 games to show what he can do, and that determines whether Cleveland uses one of those first-round picks on a quarterback or focuses on other positions. Here's another factor that nobody's talking about. Joe Flacco's contract has performance incentives that could balloon his cap hit. If he plays significant snaps, his deal could reach $13 million, which is insane for a 40-year-old placeholder. Meanwhile, Sanders is making just $951,000 on his rookie deal, and Gabriel at $1.13 million. The math is pretty simple. If you're not competing for a playoff spot anyway, why pay Flacco $13 million to go 6-11 when you could pay Sanders less than $1 million to go 4-13 and actually learn something about your future? Ultimately, this entire season feels like an audition for 2026. Cleveland has 9 total picks in next year's draft, including 2 first-rounders from Jacksonville. If Sanders shows flashes in limited action this year, they might use those picks on other positions and build around him. If he struggles or never gets a real chance, they'll probably draft a quarterback in the first round. The 2026 quarterback class is loaded with talent, including guys like Cade Klubnik, Lenoris Sellers, and potentially Arch Manning if he declares early, but it doesn't look like that's likely. Cleveland could realistically have the #1 overall pick if this season goes as poorly as expected, or if Jacksonville underachieves. But here's the catch. Drafting another quarterback means admitting that they wasted picks on Gabriel and Sanders, which doesn't look great for a front office already under pressure. Andrew Berry's job security is directly tied to finding a franchise QB, and he's running out of chances to get it right. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about the Cleveland Browns' decision to name Joe Flacco as the starting QB? Do you believe my theory is true about just riding out the beginning of the rough season with Flacco before pivoting to Shedeur Sanders? Or do you think there's something else happening? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I don't know if you guys heard, but the Rafael Devers trade has been an unmitigated disaster for the San Francisco Giants. We have a completely separate video on that on our brand new baseball channel, Uni Diamond Talk. I'm going to leave a link to it in the end screen and I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.